wrote this book called Healing. It says her journey, his role. It's how I discovered the hidden power of the heal trauma in women. And you can also see my shirt. I'm a reader as well. How many of you have actually had a book reading done for me? Handful of you. So that's something I'll talk about as well. So it was interesting. I was driving down this morning and my mom called. She's like, hey, what are you doing today? And I said, well, I'm actually going to a convention. She's like, oh, fantastic. What are you going to do there? And I said, well, I'm actually going to talk about my work, the healing work I do, the book readings, all of that, the podcast. I have a Topless Talk show. And it was a beautiful moment with my mom, so I'm 45. My mom is, she's 66. And so I grew up Mormon, very conservative. I was a when I got married at 23. And my parents are Mormon as well. And so my mom, she goes, I'm really surprised at how this work has really taken off for you. And I'm like, yeah, Mom, I'm really surprised that women are taking their clothes off for me too. And she was like, no, I'm being serious. I've seen the testimonials on your website. I've seen all the work that you do. She's like, I'm just amazed at just how well this is received. And that's what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about the work that I do. So the basis of my work in the healing modality is that we all have these wounds. The body keeps score. We go through life and we're constantly tallying up these losses that we have. And there's a book out there called The Body Keeps a Score. And when I was reading this book, I'm like, well, damn, if we're taking up all these hits, how do we actually even the score? If we can't even the score, is it even possible? And then I discovered something interesting in my studies when I was going to back to school to be a somatica healer. And one of the things that they taught was that your sexual desires actually are a way for your body to help heal itself. And so I thought, well, if we all have these core wounds, and if our body is desiring to be sexual, maybe that's just not us trying to be sexual. Maybe that's actually our body saying, hey, pay attention to your sexual desires. There's an opportunity for you to heal there. And so I thought, well, if we had these negative experiences and then we add them with these positive sexual experiences, then there actually can be some real healing happening there. And that's when I started to put together orgasm. And that was where the healing came from. When I got orgasm at the time. And I've been doing this for the last 4 years now. I've worked with over almost 1,000 women in this process. And I'm amazed at the transformation that has happened. And when everyone thinks like, oh my God, like, are you having sex with these women? No, that's not what happens. Everything is done professionally. It's done hygienically. I use my hands. I've been trained. And you don't even need me to do that. This is not about me. It's about discovering what your desires are and then going to your sexual partner and saying, hey, my body is telling me this. I think there's a hidden emotion behind this act itself, or behind this pleasure, behind this desire. What can I do to heal? And you'll be amazed to find out what's actually there for you. And that's what this book is all about. I'm selling this book today for those that are interested. And those that actually are interested, you can get a free book reading. And what basically a book reading is your breath are a window to your soul, actually specifically to your relationships. So what I've discovered, so again, I have a Topless Talk show. And this Topless Talk show, we had this fun little segment where the guests would get topless. And I love it. It's just something that I've just grown up. I'm like, I mean, who doesn't like boobs? They're beautiful, right? And so on the segment, we had this it was guess your personality by your tip. And so our guests would get topless. So like, okay, Ryan, what am I telling you about my personality? And I've always been an intuitive person. So I'm like, oh, this is what I guess I'm gathering from you. And they're like, oh my God, you have a tuition. There's this intuitive part of it here. And so it became a fun segment. And I started to go back and look at basically these episodes. And I started to recognize that there were patterns. There are different patterns of bodies. There are different patterns of different patterns with nipple placements and all of this stuff. And I've been able to put this together. And over time, it's been pretty darn accurate. So if you're right-handed, your right breast is related to your friends and family. And your left breast is related to your partners. And it's vice versa, depending on your handiness. So for example, if one is bigger than the other, what your body is telling you and communicating with you is the one that's larger. We have this emotion, this energy in motion. And so this energy is not being passed on. So if one is larger, what's happening is your body is saying, hey, depending on which one it is, based on the relationship, is, hey, there's some emotion that's not being able to be passed to your other partner here, or to your friends and your family, because of some resentment, because of something that's happening. And your are telling you this story. Same with your partners. I see this a lot. It's very common to have one larger than the other, and it's usually sometimes, it just depends on what's happening in the relationship. But I have women tell me all the time, like, you're actually describing things that I've never really told anybody about, but I felt deep in my heart. And what happens is a lot of this comes from your heart and then out to your tissues, and then it's able to be read through these biomarkers. And so that's part of the work that I do. Is I do about 10 a day. I do 2 or 3 in person in my office, and then all the rest are virtually through a picture when I do the book readings. And the book readings are pretty accurate because I'm able to not only do the reading themselves, but I can also do a intuition or the intuitive part because they've revealed themselves to me. They've opened their hearts up. And you talk about chakras. I can read those chakras through that photograph, and I can give them basically a reading, and it's pretty accurate. So that's the work that I do, and for me it feels it's very empowering. It's also very rewarding, and I'm curious, any questions that anyone may have? Yes, that's a beautiful question. So yeah, it doesn't matter if you bought them. I've actually worked with women that have had purchased breast or implants or been surgically enhanced or whatever. I've also worked with women that have had basically a double mastectomy because they'd had cancer. So what happens is, bought or not, you may have started off equally and evenly, but they do change. They still continue to grow. They still continue to reflect the relationship that's happening internally with you. I'd love to give you a reading if you're curious. Any other questions? Yes. Readings are, if you buy the book, it's $20, and the readings are free. So I'm trying to push my book here. But if someone's just interested in just a reading, I wouldn't charge you for that. I'd just be my gift. Great question.
Are you going to talk about your healing?
My healing? So my particular healing, I can definitely talk about that. So, growing up in a conservative religion that I was very restricted on my sexuality because I thought, like, oh my God, if I were to go and to have sex or to express myself sexually, I'm just going to be, damned to hell. There I go. And so I had this worth wound of being unworthy because I still desired boobs, and so I would look at porn. I'd be a teenager, and I'm like, oh my God, hey, what's going on over here, And but I would have girlfriends they'd break up with me because I wasn't willing to push myself or go and do certain things with them. That are like, look, you're not doing what I want, and therefore I don't want to be with you. And so I just felt unworthy as a person. So I get married, and here I am saving myself from marriage. And my first wife, I'm 23, she's 26. She was not a virgin. She didn't grow up Mormon. She later converted to Mormonism later in life. And so I meet with her, and we have sex on our wedding night, and she was underwhelmed. Again, it's my first experience here. And so here I'm going with this, and this is happening very, very infrequently. And so I'm like, well, what is wrong with me? Is there something wrong with me? So I get more and more into porn, and because porn never says no. Porn never says, oh, I'm too tired, or I got a headache, or whatever the excuse was. It's always there. And so she got more and more frustrated with me. And so whenever we would have sex, it would be more of this like, oh my God, here it is. It's going to happen really fast. And so I got really anxious, and I started like having premature ejaculation. So I'm like one pump in and we're done. And she's just like, oh God, not again. And so we weren't having sex like maybe once a month. And I'm just like, this is terrible. This is what married life is like. But again, I'm like, well, I made some commitments to my wife. I made some covenants here. Here we go, And so she was getting frustrated because she wasn't being satisfied. And so what happened was 3.5 years into the marriage, she goes, look, I never should have married a virgin. You didn't know what you're doing in the bedroom. I can't teach you how to be a man in the bedroom. And she had lived with a guy for a number of years, and his name was Steve. And she's like, Steve, he always pleased me. You never once pleased me. I'm out. So a combination of that and the combination of the frustration of her in the relationship and me looking at porn, I was divorced. And here I am, I'm 26 years old. I'm in a college town. If you know anything about Mormonism, it's very, very close-knit. Not in Utah, but I'm in Idaho. And I'm in a small town of 20,000 people where 15,000 of them are college students. And I'm tainted goods. And so I felt worthless inside. I'm like, I have this wound that's not getting satisfied. So I'm thinking to myself, well, none of these kids here are going to want to marry me because I've already been married. They want to marry someone who's quote unquote pure, righteous, and all of these things. That's not me. So my personal wound is this worth wound that I'm carrying around, that I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I'm broken inside. No one's going to want me. So I jump online. My mom calls me up. She's like, Ryan, I'm getting sick and tired of not having grandkids. I'm like, I'm only 26, But sometimes all you need is a mom's push. So my mom pushes me to get online, and I meet a woman here in California, and she is, I had this list of everything I wanted in a woman. None of it was sex. I was looking for motherhood at that point. So I'm like, okay, I want to have a mom. I want to have a person who's going to raise children for me. So we have 5 beautiful children together. And we got married, and what I realized is that I married a person to be a mom, not to be a companion. And so here we are. later in life, and our kids are grown, and I want to be more sexual. And she's like, well, why? We already have kids. We don't need to do that. And so I'm dealing with this worth wound right around the time where I'm also dealing with my, I wouldn't call it an addiction, but my love and craving for booze with porn. And I lost weight. I lost about 50 pounds. I got shredded. And then I went to the river in Grass Valley up where I live. And they have this new kind of community up there. And I'm just like strutting my stuff. And I'm like meeting some beautiful women. They're all topless. We're talking. And I'm like, wow, I can actually talk to normal people and not get turned on. And it's like completely fine and satisfying. So literally overnight, kicked the porn habit. It was gone. And I'm like, I love this idea. And so then I told my wife, when the river started to get too cold, I had this dream, and the dream was like, bring the river to you. And I'm like, I'm going to start a topless talk show. And so my wife at the time, she goes, good luck. No self-respecting woman's going to come and be on your show. And so I'm like, well, I never know until you try. So I tried it, and I had, within the first month, I had 8 guests all on the show, all sharing their stories and sharing the rest, of course. We have a wall of names, they all autograph it with a little Polaroid. And so I'm learning in my own personal healing journey that, okay, I have this rejection that's happening here, but as I out, I'm like, okay, this is fine, this is happening. So eventually my wife and I, we split. We decided to get a divorce because my needs sexually aren't being met. I meet a woman who currently is my wife now. For her birthday, she has never been to Disneyland, so I take her to Disneyland on her birthday. And after our trip down there, we're in the hotel room, and she's like, hey, I'm gonna take a shower. And I'm like, that's cool. I'm in bed, I'm on my phone doing whatever. So she goes and she takes a shower, and she comes back, and the shower's going, and she's in a towel, and she says, hey, do you want to join me? And I just start crying, and I'm sobbing, and I'm like, just like ugly cry. And she's like, oh my God, what happened? Are you okay? And I'm like, I've never taken a shower before. And she's like, what the hell, what? You've been married, you have all these kids, you've never taken a shower? I'm like, well, no, I mean, obviously I've taken a shower with my wife, but I've always had to have some kind of excuse why I needed to go take a shower. Like, hey, we're running late for this event, let's share the shower together. Or, hey, we're in a drought, let's conserve water. But never ever had someone specifically say to me like, hey, do you want to join me in the shower? And so what happened, and this is where I started to discover like healing aspect of things, is that my worth wound was because I never felt desired. I always felt rejected. And this was the first time that I actually had felt desired from somebody. They truly desired me. And that healed a part of my heart that was broken because I hadn't felt desired. And so to answer your question, Dasha, yeah, that was the biggest part of my journey. I was like, oh my God, there really are these healing desires, because of course, like, why wouldn't I want to go take a shower with this beautiful woman? But she was the one that initiated that. And that was when I started to realize that there are healing desires behind sexual desires. And that's what I needed. And that's what actually course corrected me and got me on the journey that I'm on.
So are you still Mormon?
No, I kicked out.
So your family?
My family's still Mormon. They love and accept me. Yeah, they're an amazing.
They usually disown you like
I can't speak to that. I'm sure some families have done that. My family that's not what they do. But I got kicked out of the Mormon church because, and you read about it in the book here, is when I started to explore myself, my sexuality, my drug use, all of this stuff, and they're like, yeah, that's fantastic. And they're like, tell us more about this work that you're doing. I'm like, I heal women through orgasm. And they're like, whoop, put the brakes on here. No, sorry about that. Jesus is the only one that can heal. You cannot be healing people through orgasm. Get out. And that's when they kicked me out. So it had nothing to do with that I was having sex outside of marriage or that I was exploring my drug use. It was the fact that I was using healing, and that was a big taboo for them, and that was a no-no, and couldn't have a Mormon doing that. So yeah, that's what happened there. Any other questions? Well, I really appreciate you and your time, giving us attention here. And again, I have this book for sale in the back there. It's just $20. And if you want to purchase the book, you get a free book reading. And it'd be interesting to see, if you're curious, what your breasts are saying to you. Thanks again for your time.